All right, y'all, welcome to the show. We got a big one for you today. So, of course, we have Donald Trump's trial has officially started. This is, of course, the hush money case in New York for paying Stormy Daniels and misallocating the funds. I don't know if it was campaign funds or it was like falsifying business records. There's a whole bunch of different angles to why this is in court. Now, as I told you guys before, I would say, in my opinion, this is the weakest of all the cases against Trump. I think the January 6th stuff, the Jack Smith stuff, even the Georgia stuff, the RICO case is way bigger and more consequential than this. But this hush money one is the only one that's going to happen before the election, which is a bit of a disaster. So you're really hinging on like this coming through in order to, put a real hard block on his attempt to get into the White House. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. They're trying to enforce the gag order against Trump. That's a big deal. So hang tight. We'll get to that first. Then we also have the reauthorization of illegal spying that Congress just did. There's interesting backstory on that. We have a new poll where Joe Biden is surging. Conservative media is apparently imploding in terms of their ratings. It's a bit of a shock. Then we have some psychotic evangelicals who are just yearning for war with Iran because they think it'll usher in Gog and Magog and the end times in the Bible where Jesus returns, and it's too much to talk about. Then we got Michael Moore later on. He is yet again desperately warning Joe Biden to get his shit together and not be Hillary 2.0 to stop his support for the genocide in Gaza. So everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps out big time. And let's go ahead and jump into it here. So look at this, guys. Prosecutors will push for Trump to be held in contempt for violating gag order. Wow. So, in other words, they're trying to throw his ass in jail because he repeatedly has violated not just this gag order, multiple gag orders. Former President Trump's social media posts that continue to attack witnesses and members of the court will soon be added into evidence, as District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office has indicated it will push the court to hold the former president in contempt for violating the gag order barring those attacks. MSNBC legal analyst Lisa Rubin, who is inside the New York courthouse, tweeted on Monday, quote, while arguing for the admission of tweets and social media posts evocative of Trump's pressure campaign on witnesses, the DA's office drops this, quote, surely we will be seeking in order to show cause why the defendant should not be held in contempt for violating the gag order. As Trump's trial for allegedly falsifying business documents related to hush money payments to porn star Stormy Daniels gets underway, the question of Trump's attacks on the judge and his former fixer Michael Cohen hangs over the proceedings. So not only is he attacking Michael Cohen, who has blown the whistle on Trump's crimes and was his fixer in the past, he's attacking the judge. Look, his attacks on the judge in the other case, in the civil proceedings, was it Engoron? I think it was Engoron. That fucking backfired because he had to pay $454 or $464 million. Like, he got a heftier fine because he was so fucking unhinged. So now you're baiting this judge, and this judge might throw your ass in prison, right? Because, look, it's true that if this was anybody else and they violated the gag order this egregiously, they would be locked up long ago. But since it's Trump, he sort of gets away with it. And the other thing is, he's so brazen with it that it's almost like you feel like you can't actually punish him because he violates the gag order every second of every day. Like, if he didn't violate the gag order, he'd have nothing to fucking talk about. Right? So he goes so over the top with it that it almost makes it like less likely that they hold him accountable. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's Trump's style, man. He just crosses the line in such an extreme fashion that you're like, is that line even the line anymore? So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, this segment that I'm doing now is being recorded before we have an answer. I don't know how quickly we'll have an answer. We might have an answer soon on this. MSNBC analyst Caroline Polisi, not to be confused with Pelosi, a defense attorney, explained the difficult position Judge Merchan is currently in. Quote, yeah, and interesting that he did it over the weekend. Polisis began, referring to Trump's social media posts. You know, on the actual eve of the trial, he had to know that was going to take up some time this morning because obviously they would need to address this issue. The judge is in a tough spot here. No judge wants to be that, person. That is the one to throw former President Trump in jail for criminal contempt. I personally just don't see that happening. But the judge's hands may be tied here. We've seen previous judges issue these sort of escalating sanctions, monetary sanctions, she continued as an anchor pressed her on exactly what consequences Trump could face for violating the gag order. So the first is, a tongue lashing, which by any other standard, any defendant would, sort of shape up or ship out. And then you would have monetary sanctions. And there's an option of putting him in jail if there's no other recourse. He may be the one defendant that, you just can't get to shut up because literally prying his phone away from him. But, these are really thorny issues. And I don't envy Judge Merchan's position. We will be watching to see how he handles this today. Trump's attacks on the judges and courtroom staff related to his various trials has raised eyebrows and resulted in an avalanche of threats and harassment. Trump has attacked the daughter of the judge in his current trial, what a psycho, and attacked the wife of the judge in his civil fraud trial, as well as the court's clerk, going so far as to share a link to the clerk's personal Instagram account to his social media. Defendants are barred in courtrooms across the country from attacking the court staff or trying to intimidate proceedings with attacks on witnesses, jurors, or judges. Like they explain here, it's also possible they just try to dress him down, which obviously won't work because Trump is completely unhinged. So they could try to dress him down. But the one that stood out to me there is monetary fines. They could hit him with even more monetary fines, which Trump he's bleeding out, dog. That's why he had my guess is that's why he had that secret meeting with the Saudi dictator the other day. I'm sure he's relying on all sorts of questionable flows of income, which would corrupt him yet again for if he becomes president. But they could just fine him again. But look, the fact of the matter is, I'll say it again. If this was anybody else, they would already be locked up for so egregiously violating the gag order. You can have an academic debate or discussion as to whether or not you think gag orders are ever legitimate. Right? Is that a violation of free speech? That's a reasonable debate and discussion to have. But the fact of the matter is the current interpretation we have in this country is that gag orders are perfectly allowed. I remember when I was on a criminal jury, they said you're literally not allowed to talk about this to anybody, the media, your friends, your family, until the trial is over, right? That's sort of like taking away your free speech, but also it's just part of the process when being involved in one of these court cases. By the same token, we have gag orders. And he has so egregiously violated those gag orders that if it was anybody else, he'd be in prison. So funny enough, they're right. The Republicans are right when they say two-tier justice system, but not in the way they think. The two-tier justice system is that they go extra easy on elites, including Donald Trump, because they know if he gets locked up, we all know all hell would break loose. The other thing is, and this part is speculative, but is he trying to get locked up? Trump may have calculated that if I get locked up, that's going to help me for the election. That might be what he's thinking. Because he's seen time and time again, certainly in the Republican primary, every time he got into more legal trouble, his polls went up. Now, that didn't translate to the general election, so I don't think it's a good analysis if it is Trump's analysis that, hey, if I go to prison, if I go to jail for a little bit, my numbers will go up. But he might be thinking, hey, might help me out, so why not, right? But I don't know. He's also soft as Charmin. The guy's such an entitled, pampered little prick his entire life that I don't think he'd fare well behind bars at all, even if it's like a fucking hotel-like prison. You know what I mean? So anyway, man, this is a big deal. We'll see how quickly we get an answer on this, but they are literally talking about now potentially locking up the president for so egregiously violating the gag order. I mean, this is criminal contempt of court. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Again, if it was anybody else, it would be game, set, match. It would be checkmate. Their ass would be locked up. Since it's Trump, you never know. And if anything, you lean more on the side of it's not going to happen. Because he violates it so much and so often in such an over-the-top way that it's almost like he's daring them. Go ahead. Do it. We'll see. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.